Moving now to our NDTV exclusive, with us in studio is the former head of the Tibetan administration in India, Lobsang Sangay, who joins us for this exclusive. Dr. Sangay, thank you so much for joining NDTV. It's interesting that you're here at a time when India has some concerns about statements by the Bhutan Prime Minister, where he said China is also a party in the Doklam dispute. Do you see this as part of China's larger expansionist strategy? People in Bhutan are now saying that this is actually something which the Bhutan Prime Minister was just stating the position. He hasn't made any change.
Well, good to be on your show, Sonia Singh. And yes, we've been saying this, Tibetans, for the last 60 years, that Chinese leaders, including Mao Zedong, have said, let's occupy Tibet. Tibet is the palm. And after that, we go after 5 fingers: Ladakh, Nepal, Bhutan, Sikkim, and Arunachal. So what's happening in Bhutan or Doklam area 2017, Galwan in 2020, and recently in Arunachal Pradesh, all these are part of the expansionist policy of the Chinese government to pressurize all these Himalayan areas, including Bhutan, to concede land and territory to China. Now, the fundamental fault, I've been saying this, is that since India called, instead of Indo-Tibet border, India called it Indo-China border, thereby essentially inviting Chinese troops to come to the border. Once they're at the border, including Doklam in Bhutan, they will say much more is their territory. So there lies the fundamental problem. So Tibet has served as a buffer zone between India and China, because India never had a land border with China. After the occupation of Tibet, all these problems have come. At a larger geopolitical level, also, China wants to be #1 in the world by 2049. They have declared so. That's the 100th anniversary of the Communist Party of China.
Yes.
To be #1 in the world, first you have to be the hegemon or the dominant in your own region. That's Asia. And in Asia, who is their potential competitor? India. So hence to unnerve India, to disturb border areas, is the way to muscle their way towards #1 in Asia.
India's foreign minister has made the point that it is under this government that we've seen the largest military deployment by Indian troops on the border. Currently, he's currently, of course, the major political issue with Rahul Gandhi targeting the government on this. But India has remained very strong and said that we have taken the most aggressive policy so far of previous governments against China. Even the fact that India has been much more open to His Holiness the Dalai Lama and Tibetan leaders like yourself has been a change from earlier, when we were, in a sense, you were in our country, but we often were very, not very open about it.
Now, India has been the main supporter for Tibet, and Indian people has been the main host for Tibetans, and that's for sure, whichever party it is. Yes, since Doklam, the Chinese troops from the other side, 20,000 or so came. India pushed 20,000 or so from this side, and Galwan, 50,000 or troops from Chinese side. India has pushed 50,000, and also in Arunachal Pradesh as well. So yes, I don't want to say they've been more aggressive, but definitely assertive. India is going toe-to-toe with Chinese troops on the other side. But this is the larger game plan. And there is expansionist and sinister policy. So India has to be very, very alert. It's just not just in Bhutan, also in Nepal, Bangladesh, Sri Lanka and Maldives, and obviously in Pakistan. So Chinese presence, is everywhere.
Do you think that, in the sense that besides the military deployment, the stepping up of Indian infrastructure on our borders, especially in Arunachal Pradesh, has been another area we've been very assertive on? Also, one advantage, and now that you are in the US, you may see this, that India and the US perhaps looking more at a strategic partnership against China coming together, with the US also recognizing that China is no longer somewhere where it's easy to do business with, or to ignore its expansionist plans just to do business with them.
Yeah, with the US, you have Quad, US, India, Japan, and Australia as a partner. Essentially is to, not contain, but, to be aware of China, for sure. And as far as infrastructure is concerned, I would predict if there is a war between India and China, it will be in the area of Arunachal Pradesh for 2 reasons. Number one, in 1962, Chinese army did come and win in Arunachal. They moved all the way to Tezpur, which is in Assam now. Number two, China has built major infrastructure on the other side, in Kongpo area, they have a military airfield, 600,000 passenger planes, passengers land in that airport. And they have a high-speed train coming from Lhasa to Kongpo area in 3 hours. And they have highways. So on this side of the border, Arunachal, yes, much need to be done as far as infrastructure is concerned. Not just in Arunachal, whole of the area. Now, my guess is that there is less likely, of course it's dangerous, less likely to have war in Sikkim area because Chinese troops did come in 1967. They got defeated by Indian troops. Mm-hmm. And in the Galwan Ladakh area, infrastructure-wise, right, the supply chain is very challenging even for China. So, China might see Arunachal as an advantageous area as far as infrastructure is concerned. And most importantly, 6th Dalai Lama was born in Arunachal Pradesh. So, hence China calls Arunachal, the Tawang area, South Tibet.
No, and I think it's an important point that India also had a G20, one of the meetings of G20 in Arunachal Pradesh just this week to make that point as well. I mean, even though China boycotted, it's not something we are going to compromise on. But just that point, of course, that His Holiness the Dalai Lama just a few days ago anointed the third highest spiritual leader of Buddhism, a young boy. It's interesting because that's something China keeps maintaining, that, that we will decide who the next Dalai Lama is. Ironical that the Communist Party will decide the highest Tibetan spiritual leader, living God, as the Buddhists see him. Was this a clear message to China by His Holiness?
No, it was not a message. It is just a natural act on the part of His Holiness Dalai Lama to recognize 10th, Khalkha Jizun Thamba, who is the most eminent spiritual leader of Mongolia, because Mongolians follow Dalai Lama as their supreme spiritual leader. So it's his responsibility to recognize and, the Khalkha Jizun Thamba, which His Holiness Dalai Lama did. Now, obviously, Chinese government is objecting. What they're saying is, it's their right. They're a communist party. They say religion is poison. They destroyed 98% of monasteries and nunneries in Tibet, disrobed 98% of monks and nuns, right? And then looted, burned 90% of Tibetan artifacts, right? And then they have banned the photograph of Dalai Lama, and they're saying they have more right to recognize reincarnated lamas than, His Holiness Dalai Lama. So His Holiness Dalai Lama's right, and he did the right thing, and people in Mongolia are very happy with that.
Thank you so much, Dr. Sangay, for coming in and with your analysis of the current situation. Thanks, it's very valuable.
Thank you.